Now, I have such a love-hate relationship with this anime. I really, really do. Uh, it is interesting and entertaining, and the main character just he goes from cool to grating on my nerves in like point zero seconds.
The first show we're going to be talking about is Black Clover.
Black Clover. Now, I have such a love-hate relationship with this anime. I really, really do. Uh, it is interesting and entertaining, and the main character just he goes from cool to grating on my nerves in like point zero seconds. But I know, I mean, I think I remember you hearing you say something about you just can't do it with him on that, or you've tried, and you're just like, nope.
Well, it's one of them things where it's like my time is very, very like hard to find, and my lasting impression for that show is like I don't
Yelling,
like the
screaming
main guy. Like
character.
I don't like his brother right now. Oh, what?
Yelling, screaming main character.
Yeah, yelling, screaming main character is my takeaway from it. And then the other part is I don't like his brother, and the world's kind of cool. But
Yeah,
yeah,
so at this point in the series, they have opened things up a bit more. You're seeing more of the world and what it entails. So there is another other kingdoms around the area who have their own mages who they're battling against. They're coveting magical items and resources and all this. Um, Apparently, there are dungeons that can randomly appear, and whenever they do, people want to immediately go out there and conquer the dungeon to see what resources and other magical items they can get.
okay.
And it's weird. It's just the way they kind of approach things because it's all very, I don't know. It's very structured and at the same time it's very chaotic. So it's kind of just the right now. I think in the series when I was watching, there was somebody who had, I guess, because of his magical abilities were being able to he's basically a necromancer. He can control undead and
Okay.
kind of create undead. But that was his magic. And because of how just wrong that magic is, he got kicked out and shunned and outcasted. So basically then he became very bitter and angry towards the kingdom, and he kind of wanted to take revenge. So he kind of staged an attack on the kingdom, and yeah, it's the main characters are kind of learning and growing, and they're gaining more abilities, which is cool. Um, but at the same time, I don't know. I can't necessarily see where the series is going. I really can't. But again, I think the series is going to be like some 50 odd some episodes or something like that.
Hmm.
So they're only in like episode in the maybe in the 20s or something like that.
Yeah, probably
So
24 or something.
yeah. So they still have room to start doing something with it. Like the only thing you know is that the two main characters that you guys can see on the screen right now want to be the next Wizard King. But as far as I know, to become the next Wizard King is something like after the current one is gone or something. I don't know. They don't really explain a lot of that. So I'm like sitting here going, okay, how is that going to work? How is the selection decided? Who decides it? What happens? And so far, we're just like, no, we're just gonna give you more story about what's going on in the world, kind of thing.
Hmm.
So I guess they're kind of in the early stages still.
Okay.
Both of them are gaining more power and getting stronger. The normal Isk guy in blue, actually he gained an ability where he actually has like a wind sprite that he can kind of gives him more power, I guess.
Hmm.
But he still doesn't have a very good grasp on how to control it yet. So there's that. And the loudmouth who constantly yells, he got another sword.
Wow.
So like he has the one big one, which he uses to like shield from massive attacks or be able to cut through large items, but it's very slow. So then he ended
Okay.
up getting a smaller sword, sort of the same thing, but now it's quicker.
Okay.
So now all these fast attacks that can come in, he can actually counteract and do something about.
Okay.
So, and he also has shown the ability that he can take other people's abilities and use them temporarily. So there was an instance where someone was cloaking themselves with fire, and he couldn't get close enough to them to be able to counteract it. And it was basically a healing thing that he was doing. So any damage he did kept getting healed.
Okay.
The only way to do it was to counteract the fire with water. Of course, he doesn't have that magic, but someone in his group did, and he ended up temporarily gaining her ability. So when he slashed, it created like a water slice through the air that, when contacted with him, negated the magic, and the water just took over from there. So it's interesting. It's interesting, which keeps me wanting to go back. And occasionally, his overabundance of energy and enthusiasm with his yelling is actually called for, because there's actually like critical moments or like intense emotional moments where you're like, okay, that's appropriate. You could do that. And he goes back to that when there's nothing else going on. And I'm like, oh God, stop it. So I don't know. It's an interesting show. I'm probably going to continue watching it just because it has caught my attention. But I don't know how I feel totally about it. I'm like, in terms of like rating at this point in time, I'd like give it like an 80%. You get like an 80 out of 100.
Okay.
So it's not horrible. It's not like what was that one show? Bahamut. It's not in terms of like Bahamut where I just want to kill the guy on that one. I just want him to die. But he's still annoying, so I'm not quite 100% there.
Okay.
Either way, decent enough show. If you want to get into a show that's going to have some longevity, dealing with fantasy settings and magic and stuff like that, go for it. As long as you can get over the fact that the main character's freaking annoying.
Okay.
So
you say right now it's still building? It isn't really like have a clear goal?
Yeah, I don't feel like we've really, like, they keep hinting about things like, oh, there's this secret or organization or trying to undermine things and potential for characters to die and everything, but we haven't like gotten to that point yet.
Okay.
We're like I feel like we're just about to kick it off. We're kind of in that mid-range where we're like, we're not quite there, but we're gonna be there. So
like the end of a training arc before you start fighting the villain.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's kind of where I'm at with that.
Okay. Yeah, it's on the list for me, so I will revisit it one day. She was like, oh, that's a cool idea. And I'm like, yeah, that is kind of cool. It's like a little surveillance thing. But then he said the camera spins along with...
I at least have to say, the two parts that threw me off completely and just made me just go, wait, what?